The Circular Momentum Show, the premier podcast and information source for leaders in the IT Asset Disposition and IT reseller community. With a focus on growth strategies, IT lifecycle services, and making sustainability profitable and beneficial to the environment. Welcome to the Circular Momentum Show, the podcast where we explore the innovations driving sustainability and circular economy practices in the technology sector. I'm your host, Pete Paisley. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Ashley Foreman, Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Dynamic Lifecycle Innovations. Ashley is a true leader in the ITAD space, and she's here to share how Dynamic is changing the way enterprise organizations approach IT asset disposition. Now, if you're not familiar with Dynamic Lifecycle, let me tell you, they're not just another ITAD provider. They're setting standards for the entire industry, from their innovative RFP toolkit that's helping enterprise purchasing and IT departments standardize their hardware disposition processes, to their relentless focus on analyzing and improving customer experience during complex projects. Dynamic is thinking differently. Ashley's going to walk us through some game-changing strategies, including how they're reducing friction and stress for clients navigating complicated ITAD transactions. We'll also dive into their recent expansion into Virginia's data center alley, their approach to the booming hyperscaler and AI markets, and how they're leveraging the recent Gartner report to drive growth. These aren't just incremental improvements. These are the kinds of forward-thinking innovations that other ITAD providers should be studying and emulating. So buckle up. We're about to get into the weeds of what true industry leadership looks like with Ashley Foreman. Welcome to the Circular Momentum Show. Ashley Foreman, Enterprise VP of Sales and Marketing at Dynamic Lifecycle. Thanks for joining us on the Circular Momentum Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Hey, I wanted to jump right in. I think many of us in the industry recently saw the Gartner ITAD report that was just issued, and that included Dynamic and some other industry leaders. Congratulations, by the way. Very exciting.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you a few questions around that. What's some of your thoughts about how you'll be marketing around this report for sales growth? You know, how can you use this to make a good first impression on a new prospect, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say one of the things that makes Gartner recognition so meaningful is just the role and the credibility that they play with enterprise tech leaders.
Yeah.
You know, as we know, they're one of the most trusted advisory and consulting firms in the tech industry. So their research is really meaningful to CIOs, procurement teams, other tech leaders when it comes to evaluating vendors and making strategic decisions. So when their organizations are evaluating ITAD providers, reports like this become part of that validation and evaluation process. So for us, being in the Gartner Market Guide is more than marketing, because it helps provide credibility in the industry with an independent perspective that helps confirm whether a provider has the capabilities, scale, credibility to support enterprise programs. And so that recognition, it's extremely valuable. That validation is really important. And it helps our customers just have confidence in Dynamic's ability to deliver secure, transparent lifecycle solutions to them. And, you know, we're proud to be recognized alongside our other industry peers. So for our sales team, we really use that report as an educational tool. So we're launching our campaigns around it, but focused around how we can drive education within the enterprise space. A lot of organizations still view ITAD as a compliance checkbox, as we know, when in reality, it's a strategic part of that technology lifecycle management. And so the research, again, just credibility, positioning, it's so important. So for us in leveraging this from a sales standpoint, we use it for sales enablement conversations at all aspects of our funnel. So the top of the funnel in prospect conversations, We use it for thought leadership and educational content. We use it to help guide our conversations with procurement teams, help them understand what best in class ITAD programs look like, and how to really have a solid and secure evaluation process. So it's pretty multifaceted the way that we use the market guide. And from a sales growth perspective, it's one of our most critical and important campaigns of the year.
Yeah. And they did a really good job in the report, I think, in terms of how clients should kind of do the vendor selection process with ITADs. And
Yeah.
one that stood out to me that I wanted to talk to you about is in the report, they mentioned that the settlement process should run one of a couple
Mm.
different ways. And one was a fair market value where the customer typically will get an upfront settlement and it's generally more conservative. It might be a 30-day settlement period where the ITAD is actually just doing a buyout on the equipment based on some market estimates. I see that as more traditional, historically speaking, within the industry. But then it goes on to say that a consignment model is much more transparent and much more beneficial to the customer. I have not experienced that being done near as much in the industry. What are some of your thoughts around this? Are we going to see more of a shift into this consignment-based settlement where there is a more transparent
Yeah.
set of transactions?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, that is Dynamics base model is consignment. So we onboard our customers to a consignment model, and primarily the reason being because what you mentioned. So transparency, a lot of our clients really value the transparency around their reporting and then also the value return. So being able to maximize that return. So transparency and return tend to be two really critical things for our customers. So consignment allows us to do that, and being able to offer that as our baseline service offering has been really well received by our clients. We do occasionally have customers that will prefer the fair market value option. Just again, like you said, it's more of a traditional model. If they're more heavily valuing, they want a quicker return, so they're okay with what that means from a valuation standpoint. It just depends on what they prioritize and what matters to them. But for us, we're seeing that shift, the majority being focused around those values aligning with the consignment model, which is why that's the baseline in which we onboard our customers to.
Yeah, and that's good to hear because I think it's really good for the industry on a whole to
Hmm.
see that model become more prevalent.
Right.
So
Yep. I agree.
another item I wanted to ask you about, Ashley, Dynamic was an early adopter of ESG reporting in your go-to-market strategy. Tell me how it's been a few years now. How's that been going for you guys?
Great question. So you mentioned we were early adopters, and primarily because we could see where the market was heading. So our focus and the customers that we serve really well are large enterprise, large scale manufacturers, and now heavily moving into the data center space. And so those customers, the larger the scale, those that are publicly traded, especially organizations that have global operations and have to align to European policy around ESG initiatives, they definitely value that more and find more value in the reporting. And we'll see conversations shift from, our IT leaders to bring in their sustainability teams to have those discussions. I will say where we move away from that core enterprise segment and we start seeing, the non-publicly traded organizations, those who only have domestic processing, uh, those who don't operate in states that have sustainability legislation. We know California's got a lot of richness to what they require. That's
Yes.
when the interest falls.
Mm,
So it really depends on the customer. And for us, especially as we continue to go into the data center space, ESG is emerging as a high priority for them. I mean, we know the consumer response to the data center boom, and so brand and reputation is pretty paramount to those folks,
yeah.
and that's a big part of our messaging. So it really depends on that level of customer. But I will say, if they fit that mold of large enterprise, publicly traded, global operations, or branding is really important from a sustainability standpoint, it matters. When you go away from that into those other customer segments, the importance really, really falls.
Yeah. Interesting feedback. I think this ESG reporting topic will continue to be important in the industry because there are some emerging opportunities to trade the carbon insets related to retired IT assets that could be right around the corner.
We're also starting to venture into that space.
Yeah, because you've already got the baseline kind of set up for that. So you're in a good position to take those next steps. I'm still firmly convinced that the industry on a whole, everybody's going to need to embrace it in a more significant and fundamental way than they are today. So folks like yourselves and Sage who moved early on it were pretty smart in my book.
Oh,
I
thank you
wanted
for
to
saying that.
ask
I
too,
agree.
I've been seeing some marketing around your RFP toolkit on LinkedIn, etc. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that, why you created it, what's the customer pain point that you address with it, and how it's working for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you took notice of that. The need for it came directly from listening to our customers and prospective customers. And honestly, I have to give credit to the team that brought this to life. We have just an amazing marketing and sales operations team that took this feedback from our sales team and applied it to being able to provide a tool into the market that we're receiving really positive feedback around. And the challenge that it addressed was we hear a lot of feedback around the resourcing of ITAD at organizations. You know, we work with some pretty large scale companies that have one or two people that manage their entire ITAD program. So when it came to how do you evaluate vendors, what should we be looking for? We talked about the Gartner Market Guide earlier, and how do I understand what matters, what's important? We saw the opportunity to bring the toolkit to organizations to help make sound, informed decisions. When selecting a provider, you know, cutting through the noise, the complexity around security, compliance, operational capabilities, what questions to ask, what things to look for. And the creation of the toolkit was really bringing all of that into a deliverable and something that we could present to customers and prospective customers to use in that evaluation process.
I think it's really smart. On the surface, it seems like you identified a need and you said, hey, here's a toolkit so you can up your game in terms of how you're managing this
Yeah.
process. And are they
Right.
receiving it with, are most of these folks welcoming it and receiving it well? Or are some of them going, no, we got it figured out. We don't need your help?
hmm Yeah, it's a great question. So we launched it. We went to the Gartner IOCS conference in December, and that's when we launched it. And we had pretty positive feedback overall, especially for those we a lot of the procurement individuals who we talked to that were like, I'm not really sure what to look for, what certifications matter, what questions should I be asking, what, you know, industry publications should I be looking at to evaluate? And so we've had a lot of positive feedback. We have had skepticism too. So that's been something that we've navigated through as we've had different prospective customers share, you know, appreciate it, but we've got a pretty sound internal process. So we're going to follow our own. And we don't push it. We're not heavy pushing it on our customers, but where we've had a lot of really strong interest has been from those who aren't really sure how to approach this evaluation process and they really find value in the conversation. We did go through a process too of evaluating it with a couple of some consulting companies that we've worked with in the past who they operate with enterprise organizations on, you know, certain ITAD level consulting. So we brought it to them and said, hey, as an ITAD consultant and a procurement expert, what do you think about this? Is this something that, you know, are we hitting the marks? Are we missing things? And had a lot of really good third party validation and feedback on it to just help provide credibility to, you know, what we're putting out in the market. So far the response overall has been very positive.
Well, great idea. Credit to you and your team for producing that. Hey, Ashley. So moving on, I wanted to ask about your new Virginia location. I think I saw some recent announcements that you're opening a facility near Data Center Alley in Virginia, right?
Correct.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have opened our facility in Loudoun County, Data Center Alley in Virginia. And it really, the need for that was driven by customer demand. So we already serve several enterprise and technology partners in that area, including a Fortune 100 global financial services company.
Mhm.
So establishing a local presence in that market to better support the customers that we already support right in the heart of that data center environment, and then obviously being able to be there to service new customers, new prospective customers, has been, you know, the huge push for why that strategically made sense for us. So the focus and why we chose that market, obviously because of the proximity of data center activity and enterprise activity. So it was the right move. It made a lot of sense. And importantly for us, we wanted to be able to deploy Smart Hands support within minutes of a customer request. We know that in the hyperscale environment, speed, security, responsiveness is super important. And those refresh cycles happen at an incredible pace. So having a partner that's local and can operate securely at scale becomes a real differentiator for us. So, and we've been looking to part of our strategic growth model is to prop up new facilities all over the country. And so that not only because of the proximity of current customers, Data Center Alley, just made sense for that to be our next location. And now we're exploring, other parts of the US where we're going to prop up our next couple. We're hoping to open a few more within the next 12 to 18 months,
Well,
which
that's
is very
exciting.
exciting.
And we hear that,
Yeah.
they're building these data centers in all kinds of places now based on the availability of
Yes,
power and cooling, right? So Data Center Alley is
absolutely.
where it's at, but there's a few more starting to prop up across the US. So it sounds like you're well aligned with that.
Yes.
And I want to dig
Yes.
in
We're
on that a
keeping an
little
eye
bit.
out.
Yeah. By the way, in our prep, I think you mentioned that you're going to do your official, if I can break the news, your official ribbon cutting for that
Yes. Yes.
location will be during Data Center World
Yeah.
in April. Is that right?
Right. Right. Yes. Yes. Yes, I meant to mention that. So we're going to be going to Data Center World and we'll be doing our official ribbon cutting during that week. I believe as of right now, we're looking at the Thursday of that conference, but we're finalizing all of that. So follow us on LinkedIn and stay tuned. We'll definitely be marketing that pretty heavily as, start to open up the facility for people to come and see us.
Yeah, I think that's like April 20th through 22nd, if I remember right, but don't quote me because I
Yep.
don't have my
Yep.
calendar
You
up.
are correct.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And I want to dig into something else you mentioned because I find it interesting. We've been getting data from IDC and others that's pushing the fact that these hyperscalers and large enterprises implementing AI technologies have significant needs for on-site services. And you mentioned being positioned there to provide smart hand services on site to these types of customers. So you guys obviously tend to agree then. You see a big services opportunity within this space, right?
Absolutely.
Not just
Yes,
not just
absolutely. And we're
not just
already
taking out their retired hardware and wiping it and reselling it.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're already starting to deploy those. So on-site service teams is heavily, heavily important and a big focus for us because to your point, a lot of these data center decommissioning projects operate as projects where they have a heavy need for strong support on site with a lot of technical expertise that's required. It's important that those on-site services are strong.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is that a lot of these high-end GPU-based systems, they're redeployed. They're not necessarily retired. So they need a lot of help with that
Mhm.
redeployment work or what's sometimes referred to as cascading these products, or we used to call it IMAC
Mhm.
work, install moves, adds, and changes. But the bottom line is
Yep.
these folks don't necessarily have a huge staff to do all these moves, adds, changes, cascading, whatever you call it. They
Right.
need a partner who can do some of those on-site services for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The decommissioning of the data center and whether those assets are retired or relocated to a new space, both of those things are critically important. And the ITADs that are servicing the data center need to be able to keep up with both.
Yeah. So I wanted to switch gears again a little bit to more kind of sales growth Q&A. There's a lot of amazing stuff
Okay.
going on in the industry, the top line growth amongst the ITAD providers, some of the new data we're starting to see is pretty amazing. Of course, increased prices in memory and disk commodities are a really big driver in it,
Yeah.
alongside general growth due to the AI and hyperscale evolution. So how has that impacted some of your sales planning for this year and next? Did your sales team get a big new quota that made their jaw drop? Or give us any insights you can into how that's working on your sales organization.
Yeah. So we're really focused on long-term structural growth and capitalizing on what we're seeing in the market. And in the market waves right now are really well aligned to what Dynamic does well. So being able to service data centers, enterprises at scale. So it's putting gas on those fires and being able to position our sales team to support it effectively. They are getting some nice new quotas this next year, which they're very excited about.
All right.
But they did surprisingly, and I don't mean to say surprisingly as if sales isn't always loving big new quotas, but they get it and they're really open to it because they
Yeah.
see the potential and the opportunity. And
Yeah.
everybody here is just buzzing with it. So our sales
Yeah.
planning's been really fun. It's been really exciting and engaging.
I hate to talk this way, but those of us who have been around a while, we go, this isn't something that happens a lot in a typical career. So the people who are involved in this era within our industry are going to look back someday and go, that was some exciting times. That was pretty cool. So I wanted
Yeah.
to point to a report by Compliance Standards. David Daoud, industry analyst in the ITAD segment, he published an article recently on February 19th titled How Sims and Iron Mountain Are Repricing the ITAD Industry and Positioning It as a Primary Growth Engine. Now, in this article, he noted that both companies recently reported approximately 70% year-over-year growth in their ITAD divisions, and Iron Mountain said alone that memory pricing alone created about 15 to 20 million positive swing in a single quarter within this $190 million segment. So just some more amazing numbers that we're hearing from those who do report something publicly. Where do you see this going from here? Do you expect this trend to continue on this kind of trajectory, or is it going to flatten out soon? What do you think?
Yeah. So we're experiencing the same growth, which is great. I'm glad to see all of us ITEP players in the industry, riding this wave. I do think 2026 is likely going to continue to be a strong year for the industry. We've seen some swings like this before, especially during COVID when manufacturers are struggling to keep up with demand and pushed a lot of organizations towards the secondary market. There's nuance and it's a little different, but what if we follow what happened during that time period, at some point, manufacturers will catch up again. We'll likely see more balanced return to new equipment sales in the secondary market. So I imagine that eventually the commodity pricing is probably going to stabilize. But overall, regardless of where memory and disk prices land, the volume of technology entering the life cycle, especially from data centers and AI infrastructure, is only going to continue to grow. And I think we're going to continue to ride that wave throughout 2026 and anticipate 27 probably being that flattened year where we start to stabilize. But I'm not seeing it slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So I want to ask about your new website. It looks fantastic, and I just happened to
Thank you.
notice it a few weeks ago. Really well done. What can you share with our listeners and viewers about the process you went through, maybe to select an agency and design the messaging on the site? Share
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah.
can about how you got that up.
Yeah, really good question. And thank you. Very, very much appreciated. Again, I have to give kudos to our wonderful marketing leader. She's fantastic. And so we went through a process, if I think about the catalyst for this, Dynamic has really evolved as an organization. We started as a strong regional electronics recycling and ITAD provider, but we're a global player now. And our website had not come along to meet us where we are and reflect that growth. And so needing to better tell that story and paint that picture to our customers and prospective customers was really the key catalyst for the evolution of our website. And so the process that we went through, we worked really closely with selecting an agency that we felt understood not only how to build a website for a technology sustainability organization, growing organization, but that would really focus on harnessing Dynamics brand, our culture, what makes us special, and bringing that to life to our customers, create a really good user-friendly experience. So what was most paramount in the process was the selection of the right agency, having a really wonderful marketing leader and being able to translate from our team to that really strong agency how to bring all of this to life. And after the right people leading the effort were assigned to the project, we were able to get to work and really then again focused on, what are our customers going to value? How do we want to speak to our customers? What kind of user experience do we want to have? And really bringing that to life at a very knowing what that macro goal was and bringing it to life at a very micro scale, the details, the the level of work, energy, and effort that went into every single piece of that website was very,
Mhm.
very intentional. So it was a great process. I really appreciate the feedback. That means a lot to our team because they put their heart and soul into it. And we hope it continues to reflect the evolution of Dynamic as a provider and a player in the ITAD space too.
Yeah, and I think you're differentiating yourselves there, and I think it matters. And they might be subtle things, but I think it matters a lot to new prospects and customers as they review that as they begin their journey. Hey, kind of a closing question, but with all the AI and developments, the effort to add automation to our businesses, do you have any
Mhm.
recent tips or experiences you can share with our viewers that have impacted your sales and marketing operations recently?
Yes. So automation is something that is important as we grow and simplify and scale, but we really want it to enhance our customer experience and not replace human connection. So that's something that's been kind of the primary tenant in deciding where and how we automate. And so some of the things that we've done is we really took a look at our customer life cycle to understand where are our processes, things that customers are interfacing with us on, not
Mhm.
necessarily adding value. And so looking at that, some of the key things that we've done, automating our in the ways that we can. There's certain things with contracting that are difficult to automate, but how do we
Yeah.
make a more seamless and easy experience? So we actually, one of the core visions that we had for 2025 was to provide ease of use to our customer and make things just ridiculously easy for them. So we went and applied that to our customer life cycle and realized that
Mm.
our onboarding process was not super easy. So we've changed that, enhanced that, and that's definitely, I mean, we've cut onboarding time in half, which has been great. And
Yeah.
then other areas that we're looking at too is certain ways that we optimize our tech stack. So how can we integrate different systems? How can we dial things in so that we don't areas where we don't need team members to provide administrative support and we can make their lives easier. We can simplify that so we can continue to focus on that human connection and have
Mhm.
our team supporting our customers and providing that great service that is part of our brand promise.
Yeah, thank you for that. There's so much out there to evaluate and look at. It can almost be
Yes.
overwhelming at times. And by
Yeah.
automating the customer touch points, that's a great place to start. I like that answer. Ashley,
Yeah.
in closing, I just want to say thank you for joining us here on the Circular Momentum Show. It's nice to hear from a leading company in the industry. And again, kudos to your team there and to Miles from us. And we hope to have you back on a future episode where we can talk shop a little
Yeah.
bit more around sales and growth issues.
I love it. Yes. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for having us. Dynamic really appreciates the partnership and our relationship with you, and looking forward to being able to participate in future episodes and see you in the future.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Circular Momentum Show. Thanks for joining us. Don't miss our next episode coming soon, where we feature market leaders in the IT Asset Disposition and reseller community. Thanks to our sponsors, MG Environmental. And special thanks to our guests and growth strategy consultants, Circular Momentum. The Circular Momentum Show is produced and written by